We had a pretrial with Your Honor on December 2nd. That was with just the attorneys. And
Right.
following those recommendations, I did speak with my client, and we are just not in agreement with more so what Mr. Nichols perceives as restrictions on his parenting time. So, of course, there are.
This is the out-of-state.
Yes. So there's that set of issues regarding parenting time, and then we also have financial issues. He filed a petition to reduce child support back on April 7th of last year. At that point in time, Mr. Nichols retired, as the court may be aware, so he is on the road at this point, sold his home.
Yeah, that part
Right, so he's on the open road. That all being said, I suppose if the court would like, we can start with the parenting time issues and then go into financial.
Sure. Fill me in.
Okay. When we appeared before you in December, the recommendations by the court related to Mr. Nichols' parenting time with Colton, the young boy. He is right now, I believe, is he 13 still? Okay. So he's 13 years old, lives with mom primarily. And we had tried to work out like a 100-mile radius. If Mr. Nichols was in town, he could go from Belvedere, a 100-mile radius for visitation or parenting time. That would be every other weekend, and there's a difference between what would happen during the school year and in the summertime. And then there were a number of other restrictions related to parenting time, but I'll kind of focus on the actual parenting time itself for now. The court had suggested, and Attorney Bluch, step in at any time if I have this stated incorrectly, that there would be essentially a four-state area around Illinois that Mr. Nichols could travel to in the summertime. And then during the school year, on the weekends, it would be a 100-mile radius from Belvedere.
All right, guys, buckle up. Today we're stepping inside a courtroom where a simple parenting dispute quickly turns into a complex clash of freedom, safety, and control. A retired father, now living on the road, wants flexible time with his son, but the mother isn't on the same page. Right away, the attorneys lay out disagreements over travel limits and child support, setting a serious tone. The judge listens as both sides frame the issue, making it clear this case is about much more than just visitation.
He would have 1 week in the summer without restrictions at all. So if he wanted to travel outside of that four-state area, he could do that. Mr. Nichols is to provide 10 days advance notice if he intends to exercise time, whether it's here or whatever the circumstances may be, wherever he's going to go, and he would provide an itinerary to Ms. Beal. Any additional distance would have to be agreed upon by the parties. So that is where Mr. Nichols, in general, he objects to any kind of restrictions within reason. So for example, if he sees Colton for a weekend, he's allowed to travel. He doesn't necessarily want to be limited to a state area. He doesn't necessarily want a four-state area. If he has his time set every other weekend, he should be able to go freely as he pleases, obviously with notice to Ms. Beal. So if he goes to a state that we have not specified, he can.
This is during summer.
During the summer.
Right.
And then during the school year, again, same objection to any kind of restriction for a 100-mile radius. His belief is that he should be able to travel wherever he would like within that period of time, notifying Ms. Beal, but not him.
Here's where the tension truly takes shape. The father's side makes it clear he doesn't want restrictions, no set boundaries, no strict limits, just the ability to travel freely during his parenting time. That argument, however, immediately clashes with the underlying concern, structure versus unpredictability. As his stance becomes more rigid, the lack of compromise becomes obvious. This moment marks the shift from discussion to disagreement, setting up a deeper conflict that's about to unfold.
Having any necessary restrictions on where he goes. So that's really the primary objections that he has. It's more so like if he wants to go to, even in the summertime, travel further than the four-state area, he's allowed to do that. So that's where unfortunately we haven't been able to work on an agreement at this point. Why don't you speak to that?
Yeah, and Judge, our position, my client's position, is that if he's gonna be living on the road, I don't think it's safe for their child to be driving nonstop. I mean, if they're gonna have visitation, there's a lot of things to do, but it certainly doesn't just need to be driving the entire time. I don't think it's a safe thing. My client should be able to know where he's at all times. That's a lot of driving for a child every other weekend.
How long is the weekend for him?
Friday after school until Sunday, right?
Been pretty much Saturday mornings to like Sunday evening.
So he's been picking up
Just-
Saturday morning to Sunday evenings.
I'll talk to you later.
I think we initially had talked about Friday after school till Sunday, but it has been Saturdays he's been picking up to Sunday.
It's Saturday to Sunday right now?
Well, I think that what we anticipated is that it would be Friday to Sunday, but Mr. Nichols he's been picking up on Saturday by his decision.
Okay, well, here's what I'm asking. If the weekend, let's say 36 hours, just for discussion. Well, it doesn't strike me, quite frankly, that he's gonna use that whole 36 hours to just drive around aimlessly. That what's gonna happen is if he's got 36 hours, let's say he picks him up on Friday afternoon, he could drive comfortably for 3 or 4 hours, and that's certainly more than 100 miles. And I'm guessing that there are things like the St. Louis Arch, the Dells, Door County.
And Judge,
Yeah.
that is something that we talked about in the summer. So in the summer, we said he could go, you had indicated.
The
he
four-state
could go
area.
Any of the states
But why
around Illinois.
shouldn't he, if he's got the time to drive to the Ozarks and back, and I don't know that he'd have the time.
Now the focus turns sharply to the child's well-being. The mother raises concerns about long hours on the road and whether that kind of lifestyle is appropriate. The judge steps in with probing questions, challenging both sides and testing the logic behind their arguments. As the discussion deepens, concerns about alcohol enter the conversation, adding a layer of seriousness. What was once about distance limits now becomes a question of safety, responsibility, and trust.
No, because that's.
But if he had time to drive someplace that's more than 100 miles away on a school weekend, camp for a day, and then drive back and get him back in time, why? And I remember having this discussion. It just seems kind of arbitrary to impose that limitation.
It's a lot of driving, we think, for a child.
Why?
Every other weekend.
He's 13.
Especially, Judge, when you have somebody who might have some issues with alcohol.
If he ever,
And Judge, there's one other thing, if I could.
yeah,
We don't even, as far as we know right now, Mr. Nichols still doesn't even have an RV. We don't know where he's living or where he's going. He doesn't have an RV.
he's told me he has an RV. Is he lying to
I
me?
don't know. I'd like to know.
I have the down payment of $50,000 coming out of my account. I have pictures of it. Let's see.
So you do have an
Oh, yeah.
RV, yeah,
It-
and you're
well,
living in it.
Yep, I closed on 13th last month.
Okay, now, the other thing is that I can't make my decisions based on the fact that he might drink and drive. Because you know that if he was driving that RV with that minor aboard and the court found out about it, I'd stop his parenting.
Yeah. I know you would, Judge. All I'm saying is what I think the court can do is limit how far you drive with a child. If you're to visit with your child every other weekend, then why would you be driving the entire time?
He's not driving the entire time. that would be insane, you know? And if a 13-year-old, because I remember having this discussion, he's got his own phone. And if he was, you know, if he drove him up to the Badlands and they drove through the Badlands and then drove back, I'm sure mom would find out about that.
Yeah, and Judge, I think that
At this stage, the courtroom hits a pivotal moment. Doubts are raised about the father's living situation, specifically whether he even has the RV he claims. When he confirms it, the tone shifts quickly toward accountability. The judge makes it clear that any risky behavior could have serious consequences, including losing parenting time. This moment raises the stakes significantly, turning the conversation from hypothetical concerns into real-world consequences.
she would be okay even if you made it more than 100 miles. Even if you said 250 miles, that's a 4-hour distance.
Yes, it
There's a
is.
lot of places he can go within 4 hours.
Yes, there are.
But then the child isn't on the road the entire time.
Well-
Every other weekend.
But we didn't make it 250.
No, I know, but I'm saying I think she would be okay with that, but she's not okay. And I can understand that as a parent myself, how you wouldn't be okay with.
I wouldn't be okay with that. That would be insane to say, get in.
Right.
And, you know, the only time we're stopping is for gas and to pee.
Right. So that's what I'm saying, even if it was something a little bit more, like 250 miles, I think she would feel more comfortable with that, just knowing that it isn't going to be that.
And Judge, in response, I think, again, in our view, and on behalf of Mr. Nichols, he has absolutely no intent to pick up the child and just start driving for
Yeah.
the entire weekend,
Okay.
so. that
So
would
tell
have-
me why 250 miles, which is a good 4 hours.
I want to take it again from like that, we don't really see them that often the older they get. So even driving, when you're in the same vehicle with the child, I think is going to be quality time between dad and son. So I'm looking at it like, yes, there's driving involved, but you have that alone time that you perhaps otherwise wouldn't have if you're out and about and doing your thing.
Well,
That
correct
being
me
said-
if I'm wrong, but as long as they're driving, Colton could sit close to him, but he'd have to be behind him.
No.
Correct? No?
No, you can sign.
You have a captain's seat next door?
Yep, it's coaching. So Mercedes-Benz.
Okay. So you enter kind of like to the center of the vehicle.
Yeah, you have the house in the back, and then you go right into the coach.
Right.
And yeah, you have 2 seats. It's a Sprinter van, a Mercedes Sprinter van with a house.
A Mercedes, what kind of thing?
Sprinter van.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about.
So I guess, just from our perspective is that, what does it matter if he's driving for a bit, let's say it's more than 250 miles, it's 275, 300, are we gonna be back in court on a rule? I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this case is like that, but
Oh,
with that being said, my view is so long as he has that parenting time, he's not driving 24 hours a day. He stops somewhere, he's abiding by the time frame. So if it's Friday after school to Sunday at 5 or whatever it is.
As the discussion evolves, both sides begin inching toward common ground. The father reframes travel as meaningful bonding, not just time on the road, while offering realistic examples of trips. The resistance softens, and the conversation shifts toward balance, reasonable travel, planned activities, and the child's benefit. The judge guides this transition carefully, focusing on what truly serves the child's best interests. If you found this insightful,
That he's back. So
Okay.
that's pretty much our perspective on it. Like, there shouldn't be an actual geographical limitation.
okay, hang on a sec. Supposing you have 36 hours, what do you envision
I
being?
wouldn't drive anyone overnight. I wouldn't drive anyone 5 to 6 hours away.
Yeah, but I mean, you got any, like, oh, I'd love to take him here, or I'd love to take him there.
Yeah, my buddy's place out in St. Louis, that's about 5 hours away.
Who's got a place in St.
I
Louis?
got retired from Steve Rice. I retired from Price. So he's got a nice place right down there on the Ozarks. So it'd be an overnight.
Is it in St. Louis or the
Yeah,
Ozarks?
just across the border. Go through the arch.
Yeah, because you drive into St. Louis and then you take 55, is it, across to get to the Ozarks.
He's got beautiful property. And you go to Wisconsin Dells, take Cubs game. But yeah,
Well,
I'm
in
not
the
gonna drive-
Dells,
I'm not gonna drive
but these are,
24 hours.
that's St. Louis, I'm trying to think. It's about,
And that'd be the farthest I go.
yeah, that's about 300 miles.
Yeah, that'd be the farthest I go. I'm not gonna drive 8 hours, then try to hang out with my son, and then drive 8 hours back. That's nuts. It's too much driving in 2 days every time. I'm not gonna drive like that.
Now, if we went back to a four-state area, you could, well, except that you'd be moving into Missouri.
And we didn't have a problem with that in the summer, it was during the school year. Now, I would point out though, my client,
Well, during the summer, he can
yeah,
go anywhere he wants to, as long as he tells her first.
right, if it's a 300-mile radius, my client might be willing to say that that's okay too, I think reluctantly. But there's gotta be some limits, like if it's bad weather, right? I mean, the kid isn't an over-the-road trucker. We don't want our kid on the road all the time. So it is one of those things where, you know, if it's bad weather, you shouldn't go 300 miles.
You wouldn't go 300 miles that way.
How does Colton feel about this? Does anybody,
He hasn't seen the RV yet, I haven't seen it since I bought it.
say
He
again,
hasn't seen the RV yet, I have not seen him since I bought it.
has anybody had a discussion with him about, you know, do you want to go on trips with your dad in his RV?
He hasn't seen it yet, so I was waiting for him to see it, see if he wanted to go. So that's up to him. If he
And
don't
you
go-
haven't mentioned it to him?
If he don't
He
wanna go, then
doesn't seem to wanna go too far. So that's one of the reasons why I brought it up too, because when I talked to Colton about it, he's like, yeah, I don't understand why we would wanna go all over on a weekend.
It is difficult for a kid, right? I mean, a 13-year-old kid has friends here and all of those things that as they get older, they still are involved in things. They're still involved in activities. And when you're
Well-
leaving and going somewhere every other weekend, it's
It's
difficult.
not gonna be every other weekend, yeah.
And that's,
It's gonna be
Okay.
one weekend every couple months.
Let's stop for a minute.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be back every other weekend.
Peggy,
So,
you're fidgeting.
right, I know, I'm sitting back. You know, saying that generally dad is going to be within like a 300-mile radius, maybe once a month, otherwise he's going to be at times in the Belvedere area. I mean, there's ways to craft this, it's not a restriction, it's a best interest of the child. Your Honor has jurisdiction over
Yeah, I understand.
transportation. It's a best interest issue, it's not a restriction on parenting time for this dad, except that he can't be drinking around Colton. And that's been my goal from day one, because Colton doesn't want his dad drinking, and he didn't want his dad to have guns. Other than that, Colton is fine traveling with his dad. I believe he's going to want to go to the Wisconsin State Fair. He is going to want to go to the Dells. He is going to want to go to Chicago and see the museum. He's going to want to do those things. So I don't see a problem doing those things and staying in a campground overnight.
Yeah,
Colton shouldn't be forced.
and I'm gonna just, let's have a discussion here for a minute. I can see if Colton likes baseball, you know what? Let's go see a baseball game in Busch Stadium or county, not county, now it's AmFam Park, American Family Park in Milwaukee, or, you know, the Cubs, whatever it is, because there's a lot of baseball stadiums. I have a brother who lives in Memphis, Tennessee, who is a Cardinals fan, and I'm a Brewers fan, and every year we meet at Busch Stadium for a Brewers Cardinals game. And it's for the sake of the trip, because often neither, or at least one of those teams isn't any good. But the point is, I make that trip in a day. Like, I'll drive down Saturday morning and come back Sunday morning. So, you know, for things like that, I think it ought to be allowed. What I don't wanna see is, let's go, to my friend's place where I'm gonna take you fishing. And you go sit by a lake with your friends, maybe cooking some hot dogs and burgers, but otherwise drinking, whether you have fishing poles in the water or don't fish, and not doing anything else. That's a wasted trip, in my view. It may not be a wasted trip for you.
No, it is, I'll drink a fish.
Yeah, but you get my point. A 13-year-old probably does, my glasses are all smoochy. That's okay, I'll use my vestments. You get the point, though.
Yeah.
If you wanna take him to the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago, that's a neat trip. Maybe not for you,
Oh, yeah, but it's nice.
but yeah, you ought to be doing things because of the limited amount of time that are enriching. And you have, what I'm gonna say, is the convenience of being able to make those trips by road anywhere you want to, anytime you want to. And I really, really think you ought to be allowed to take advantage of that. The problem is, how do we make it clear, for his mom's sake, and maybe for his sake too, that you don't drive for, 6 hours, do nothing, and then drive back for 6 hours.
Yeah, it's just a waste.
Um,
There's no way to.
and I don't know how we craft that, but I guess what I'd suggest, is that we say something to the effect, of allowing, reasonable driving time to and from, such events as will be enriching for the minor child of the party. Because that's a word that the case law uses, is things done for the enrichment of the child.
I'd live with that.
And it could be cultural enrichment, it could be, extracurricular enrichment. I don't know if Colton has an interest in like travel baseball, but if he was good enough and got into that, let him take him to one of his games.
Yeah, Judge, I don't think my client has a problem with that, and and maybe this is where fear kind of comes into play, and in people have passed, there's all that. What if, hear me out, I like what you're saying with the language, what if we said that he's gonna stay within like a 200-mile radius typically, but up to 6 times a year, he can go these longer distances, because if he's saying it's gonna be every other month anyways,
Yeah.
that's 6 times.
Yeah.
But then we're making sure, even though the language says he can have visitation every other weekend,
Right.
it's not happening every other weekend.
Yeah, and I understand that. And it just occurred to me, in terms of travel baseball, that the place that has a lot of those tournaments, that hosts a lot of those tournaments, is Omaha. I
Been there
mean,
many times, Judge.
yeah,
I know.
yeah, I'm right. And sometimes you get to
I've been
play,
many, many times.
and sometimes you get to play in that nice new stadium
There this year,
downtown.
actually, in a couple
Yeah,
months, so.
yeah, which is the home stadium for both Creighton and the University of Nebraska at Omaha. So 2 college teams play that regular and the College World Series. It's a beautiful venue, and I stray. But that would be, and I don't know what Colton likes and doesn't like. Is he a sensitive young man? Is
No,
he?
he's just not very athletic ability, so we
Yeah,
picked up both
but what does he
of them
like to
by
do?
everything else. He just kinda likes to go and, explore new things, but then on the other side of that too, he kinda just likes to stay home and chill sometimes.
And play
too,
video
so,
games.
Yeah,
Or,
I do that often because he needs to, be out doing things.
yeah, it needs to get,
Given the discussion and speaking with my client, I think the proposal from Attorney Belucci sounds reasonable and he's willing to agree to that. So if there's one time out of the month that it's more, and the activity is for the enrichment of the child, no problem. That would kind of equate to maybe, if we're looking at once a month or every other month.
okay.
And then for
And-
every other weekend, having it expand.
And I wouldn't mind a clause that said, on such trips, Mr. Nichols, shall not consume alcohol. And shall not have firearms on his person or in the van.
If I can speak to that just briefly, obviously the alcohol consumption, that's a no-brainer. When it comes to the weapons, and I haven't specifically discussed this since he's acquired the RV, but our proposal was that he would keep any weapons in a locked safe, at all times.
And unloaded. Illinois law requires
Yes.
it.
Yes, but to not have, I just don't wanna get into like the details of, well, it was in your camper and he found the box or whatever. So-
Well, it's gotta be, I'm sure there's storage space below.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
there would be an access.
So we're fine with that type of language, but just the no weapons at all, he's mobile. So there's gotta be, I don't know where he would leave them if he,
I think Grandpa just had something to say.
No,
or-
no, no, no,
Or
we were
whoever.
just, he was asking to make sure he has a FOID card or a concealed
Oh, yeah.
carry.
And I'm a person.
Yeah.
You'd like to see it.
I believe
Okay.
it.
We just, there were some issues in the past with this, and so we just
I have
wanna
no
make sure
idea
it's a
what's going on.
safety. It's just a safety concern.
Was there ever an OP involved here?
Yes. Emergency no contact order.
I think I heard part of that.
And it was all, no legitimate
There was
evidence.
an injunction that was entered.
Say again?
I believe there was an injunction that was entered, and then we dropped the OP in place of an injunction.
And what was the
Alcohol.
injunction about?
Not having any alcohol.
Oh,
Colton doesn't want his dad drinking, and Colton doesn't like guns around. I mean,
why is Colton concerned about weapons, firearms?
He plays with the Nerf guns all the time. She buys one for Christmas
Well-
all the time.
He aimed a gun at the dog, and there was.
Who did?
No, I did not.
Okay,
That's not true. There's no truth to that.
okay.
But it's not worth it for Colton to be upset.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be in the middle over them fighting over whether a gun should be around or not be around.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to be in the
I
middle.
mean, if it's, what I'm getting at is if it's mom's issue, that's one thing. I mean, a 13-year-old boy, if he's voicing concerns about dad having guns, that worries me a little. But I don't know where it's from, so for the moment, I'm gonna leave it alone. Okay, so we have a provision that says, during periods of parenting time with dad, if he's operating the mobile home, there will be no alcohol consumption. And that doesn't mean that if we stop and I'm not driving again until tomorrow, we can get hammered. I'd like there to be no alcohol consumption at all on those weekends with Colton. Especially if it has been any issue at all. There's an expression, I don't get in trouble every time I drink, but every time I get in trouble, I've been drinking. And if you can't do that, then you don't have a problem with that.
No, no.
Okay.
If I'm a drinker, I won't pick them up.
Okay,
If I'm gonna go for a weekend
Okay.
Buddy's house and, yeah.
All right,
You won't be-
and that's music to my ears. I don't need it, I'd rather be with my son
Yeah.
than drinking for the weekend, perfect. Any firearms must be stowed in a way that they're not easily accessible, like under the van if possible, in a locked case and unloaded. Because that's the UUW statute,
Yep, this is.
okay? And, that, if, a trip is intended, that, mom should be made aware of at least the destination. And that trips, that will involve, driving for some distance will be reasonable in length, both going and coming, and will have planned activities for the enrichment of the minor child of the parties. That leaves a lot of space too,
Yeah, I'm good with that.
because it could be camping, it could be going to a ball game, it could be going to museums, it could be going a lot of things,
My client is okay with that.
all right?
Oh, that is a question though. What happens, and I heard Mr. Nichols mention this, that what if Colton says he doesn't want to go
Doesn't
somewhere?
go,
Okay,
doesn't have to go.
and I only say that,
Yeah, but
So long as
do you in that
Colton
case
wants to
park the
stay.
van and stay here?
Oh, I had plans before that. Do you wanna go here, you wanna go there? I'm not gonna call them and say, we're gonna go for the weekend.
Okay, okay,
But just
Then
make
pick
sure
'em up.
Colton talks to Dad, just put something in there that Colton should talk to Dad.
I'm not gonna pick them up and then throw it on them.
yeah,
There's gonna be plans ahead of time.
yeah.
And then if he doesn't wanna do.
Well, and here's what I don't wanna run into. I don't want this to turn into one of those cases that there's allegations that Colton is saying he doesn't want to see one parent or the other. And I can't make him. Cause
yep, understood.
we all know when push comes to shove, I can't make him. But
Understood. As long as they're talking and they're planning in advance, and so then my client can know in advance also as to
Well-
when that is, because that was just a concern also, if he's not coming every other weekend, we just didn't know when he is, so.
And I'm gonna say, I said it in the settlement conference, that the pretrial conference, that during such, that Colton should always have access to, and that doesn't mean let him play on it 24/7, but he should always have access to his phone.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think maybe that's kind of a two-way street thing, that, you don't want to prohibit dad from calling and saying, hey, I'm thinking about planning a trip to such and such a place, what do you think about it? And if Colton likes it, then he says, Mom, this is where we're going, and it all works out. But it involves communication between the parents and Colton and the parents with each other. How are these two communicating, if at all?
Actually, I received an email from Dad that said that they had been recently, just before this court date, that the two of them had been okay with him seeing Colton. It was the email that I got,
Yeah.
that from the last court date till today,
Okay.
he has seen Colton, and that Mom is cooperating
Yeah,
with them.
as long as
That's
I
the
know
email
what's
I
going
got.
on and we don't already have like prior plans or something else going on, I'm usually okay with, everything.
So I don't wanna ruin that relationship that they've
Okay.
been doing well.
Here was my question. How do the two of you communicate, if at all?
We don't communicate at
Huh?
all. We don't communicate at all socially.
Our Family Wizard.
Yep, that's it,
Our Family Wizard.
yes.
See, and that's, and, you know, and maybe we'll never get there, but ideally, and I don't want you to, I'm not asking you to like each other, but ideally, when it comes to Colton, the two of you should be communicating as freely as possible, because that's what's in Colton's best interest. And like I said, we may never get there, use Our Family Wizard for now, but, you know,
My client's okay with not using Our Family Wizard because it's expensive for both of them,
We have
so-
to use it, because it's the only thing that saves me from her comments.
it what now?
It's the only thing that saves me from her attitude and her harshness.
Who makes the comments?
She
Is it it's probably a two-way street. You
Just stick with it for now.
Yeah,
That's
you
fine.
can't help but
I was just throwing that out there, Judge.
Yeah, you
were
can't
looking
make-
at it.
Now.
you can't help but get in the last word.
Have to do a protection, I can't go with that, there's only 4 years left.
Oh, there's a
No, it's
order
gone now.
protection
It's gone
in-
now, whatever, she put that on me, no. Like, I can't go
Okay,
with that wizard.
no, I get it.
Let's not ruin where we're at, that you guys are doing okay.
Yeah.
All right? Let's
Stay
not-
there.
Let's not go any further.
Yeah,
all right?
don't backtrack,
Don't back. Okay?
all right?
Okay, Judge.
You know,
Can you guys do financials now? I've gotta go to courtroom one. Yes? You okay?
I think
do we
that's-
have agreement on the summertime?
Summertime was just the 1 week in summer without restrictions.
Yeah,
Yeah. and then-
but he does have to tell mom what's going on.
Yeah.
And the same restrictions on alcohol and guns will,
Yeah, and I would say, since we're stating up to 6 times a year, he can do the longer trips, then we probably don't even need to worry about the summer because it's all, it's all entwined. And there's still that extra week where they can go wherever, so.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we're good.
Vacation, I won't be able to-
So summer you're okay, summer you're okay with the 1 week?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
He's 13.
Who is
Won't
Victor
spend time with
Serta, and
his
why
dad.
is he in my
Wants to go
court?
2 weeks. Yeah, probably bored.
Okay, hang on
Okay,
just
if
a
I go
minute,
to one now?
hang on just a minute, cut you two off. It was in here running all during